Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Daily Debate. My name is Ahmed Nader, and tonight we'll be focusing on the economic development in general here in Egypt, and more specifically through the seaports and developing and upgrading the infrastructure of the seaports here in Egypt. As we did see in the past week, one of the main activities of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi was meeting with a number of international companies, and the agreement to be upgrading the ports of Ad-Dakhila and Al-Ain Al-Sukhna with investments of about $1.6 billion in the upcoming period. All this and more during the course of the episode for today, but we'll be starting straight away with the top stories for Sunday, as they come also from the presidential activities of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, and we will be starting with President al-Sisi on Sunday receiving a high-level Russian delegation. The meeting emphasized on the mutual keen interest on continuous boosting of the bilateral relations between Egypt and Russia. Both sides also discussed the economic relations, which are supported by the strategic partnership between both countries. The meeting also reviewed the updates of the Russian investments and the joint projects carried out in Egypt in different fields, notably the nuclear power station in Daba and the industrial Russian zone in the Suez Canal economic zone. President al-Sisi's meeting also discussed the cooperation in the grain supplies amid the current world food crisis. Another important meeting that took place today with the participation of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, but on the internal or the domestic level, as President al-Sisi on Sunday held another meeting with Prime Minister Mostafa Madbouli, Minister of Finance Mohammed Mait, Finance Deputy Minister for the Financial Policy Ahmed Kujuk, and Finance Deputy Minister for Public Treasury Ihab Abu Aish. Presidential spokesman Ahmed Fahmy said that the meeting tackled the public budget draft for the fiscal year 2023-2024, where the finance minister reviewed the final indications for the draft budget, which aims at achieving a 5% growth rate and the 2.5% primary surplus of the gross domestic product. During the meeting, the head of state directed to raise the income tax exemption limit to £36,000 a year instead of £24,000. The president's directives came in the framework of the state's efforts to mitigate the effects of the global economic repercussions. The 19th of March marks a very important day in the history of the country, marking the liberation of Taba, which was the last part of Sinai to be liberated. And as the anniversary takes place today, Parliament Speaker Councillor Hanafi El-Gibeli delivered a speech marking the anniversary of the restoration of Egypt's Taba on the 19th of March. He said that the restoration of Taba is a lesson that protecting the nations is only achieved by sacrifices and hard work. Meanwhile, he congratulated President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, all the armed forces men, and those who participated in this great achievement in the history of Egypt. Also on Sunday, Senate Speaker Councillor Abdul Wahab Abdul Razak sent a congratulation cable to President Sisi on the 34th anniversary of the liberation of Taba. Abdul Razak hailed the National Day, which capped the military victory of the 6th of October in 1973, restoring Taba, the last part of Sinai. The Senate Speaker also extended congratulations to the armed forces personnel and to the whole Egyptian people on Taba Day. And the last item of the top stories for the daily debate for today comes from Sharm el-Sheikh, a very important meeting to be restoring peace and calm to the Middle East in general and the region in specific, as Egypt's Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh hosted on Sunday a five-way conference aimed at backing calm between the Palestinians and the Israelis. The meeting brings together senior political and security officials from Egypt, Palestine, Jordan, the United States and Israel. The Palestinians and the Israelis agreed to establish a mechanism to curb the violence during a meeting aimed at preventing the already surging violence from escalating further when the Muslim holy month of Ramadan begins later this week. In a statement issued at the end of the meeting, the parties also emphasized the necessity of both Israelis and the Palestinians preventing any actions that would disrupt the sanctity of the holy sites in Jerusalem during the holy month. The parties reaffirmed the necessity of de-escalation and reconfirmed the commitments made at the previous meeting in Aqaba last month. Those included an Israeli commitment to stop discussion of any new settlement units for the months coming and to stop authorization of any outposts for 6 months. Foreign Ministry spokesman Ambassador Ahmed Abu Zaid said that the Sharm el-Sheikh meeting is a continuation of the consultations of Aqaba meeting that was held on February the 26th to back the dialogue between the Palestinian and the Israeli sides. And we return to the main topic for the daily debate for tonight, and it comes through the economic development in general here in the country. One of them is the developing and the upgrading of the seaports in Egypt. One of the statements made by His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in the past week was that we need to be having bigger agreements with the international companies and bigger investments being pumped into the Egyptian economy for the upgrade of one of them is As-Sukhna and Ad-Dikhila ports, as we did see in the past week about agreements, $1.6 billion of investments into those new ports in specific. We'll be having more details in the upcoming report. Following the break, I will be joined by Dr. Aliaa Mostafa, the Sustainable Development expert. So stay tuned.
President Fattah al-Sisi received heads of representatives of a number of major international companies involved in the management and operation of international shipping lines and container terminals. Attending the meeting, Minister of Transport Lieutenant General Kamel al-Wazir, Commander of the Strategic Command and Military Industrialization Supervisor Vice Admiral Ahmed Khalid, and Commander of the Navy Vice Admiral Ashraf Atwa. The meeting came as a result of the government's agreement with Hutchison Ports, COSCO, MSC, and CMA terminals to establish, manage, operate, maintain, and redeliver two container terminals at Ain al-Sukhna and Dikhila ports with investments estimated at approximately $1.6 billion. President Sisi confirmed Egypt's keenness to promote cooperation with these international companies due to their high international profile in the fields and distinguished technical and administrative expertise. The two stations will add capacity to the Egyptian ports, reaching up to 5 million equivalent containers annually, a 50% increase in the capacity of Egyptian ports' container handling. Companies' representatives expressed their optimism regarding the future of investment in Egypt in light of the improvement in the management system of the business climate. These cooperation efforts with these companies come as part of the state's effort to establish the Sukhna and Khela integrated logistics corridor for containers. It is the largest integrated logistics corridors for global trade between the East and West, linking the Red Sea and Mediterranean Sea. It in turn would help increase Egypt's share in global transit market, would contribute to the opening of new markets for Egyptian exports through the operation of direct navigational services, as well as would provide new job opportunities for Egyptians.
لكل الناس دايما حلم تحلم بيه وانا كان حلمي على قدي ونفسي اعيش ولما رميت عليك حملي شاركتني فيه ايدك في ايديا من الاول ما بتسيبنيش يلا يلا نكمل سكه مشيناها يلا نفرح سوا باللي احنا حققناه يلا هانت خلاص وانا وانت قلنا احنا نقدر وده اللي انا وانت اثبتناه وخلاص فاضل تكه 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 على اخر السكه لسه تكه كان ناس كتير شكه 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 وشوفوا رحنا لفين وخلاص فاضل تكه 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 على اخر السكه لسه تكه كان ناس كتير شكه 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 وشوفوا رحنا لفين وخلاص فاضل تكه 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 على اخر السكه لسه تكه خطوه جابت خطوه 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 وشوفوا رحنا لفين
يلا يا مصريين همتكم ده الحلم خلاص فاضل عليه تكة.
Welcome back. You're still watching the daily debate. As we did see in the past report, the economic development in general and the meetings of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi with officials from China, Switzerland and France to be developing the seaports here in Egypt. All this and more with my dear guest for tonight, Dr. Aliaa Mostafa, the Sustainable Development Expert. Thank you very much for being with us tonight on the daily debate.
Thank you so much.
Anytime. First of all, how do you see the continuous meetings as we do see on weekly basis with international companies, as we did see in the past week with officials from China, France, Switzerland, to be focusing on developing and upgrading the infrastructure that we have in terms of the seaports for Khela and As-Sukhna, for example, ports?
Exactly. This is, I see, is a critical issue and a high leap in our economy and the future of investments that upcoming from our state. By talking about especially Khela and Sukhna axis, it's considered to be the largest and the most important shipping line and shipping lane as well in the whole world, not only in the Middle East, not only in Africa, because it's linking the Mediterranean and the Red Sea,
yes.
And linking not only these seas, it's linking the continents together, linking Russia, the global world, the continents like Africa with the Asian countries, the Europe with the Africa as well with the Asian countries. So this is a great site and linking all these global world together. Only about by talking about the companies that are participating and cooperating, coordinating with our state, as Dr. or the Minister of Transports has mentioned in a conference a couple months ago,
yes,
that we are going to launch a great deal with this consortium. This great consortium is including many companies, and each company is representing a state, like you said, in France and in Russia and in Suez as well. That is, as we know, that Hitchstone is one of the greatest companies,
yes,
and the greatest consortium companies that are global terms in the doing this access and doing the superstructure of the access. And there is a point that I want to clarify for all the people,
yes,
that these companies are just doing the superstructure of these ports. They are not doing the infrastructure. The infrastructure is only related to the Ministry of Transports for all the Egyptians, with Egyptian engineers, Egyptian experts are doing the infrastructure. The land is owned to Egypt. The ports are owned to Egypt. But the superstructure only are done with these companies with some right of use using for 30 years, as we mentioned.
Yes, about $1.6 billion will be pumped in this project, or those two ports to be specific. What is the importance of such a huge number to be pumped in terms of investment for the global economy, or for the economy here, the general economy here in Egypt, and more specifically for the employment as well?
Okay, by talking about the future of investments,
yes,
we will go back to our vision, the 2030 vision of Egypt, and the 17 goals of sustainable development. This is my major, so that's everything is going to relate this with the sustainable development goals. One of these goals is the decent work and the economic growth, and also the industry, innovation and restructure of the infrastructure and superstructure of the building. And also the last one is responsible consumption and production. We cannot do this without doing this access. This access helps a lot to pump a huge number of investments into the markets or into the Egyptian markets nowadays. And that helps a lot to open the markets, or open the global markets to Egypt. And as we will talk later on details about the birth of the ports and how long we developed this long term to the sea and the ships as well.
Yes, the future of investments, as you have mentioned. How do you see the viewpoint of the investors coming from outside of Egypt, coming from outside of the Middle East, like from Europe, as you mentioned, someone from France, someone from Switzerland, China, Russia, coming and seeing what we have done here in Egypt in terms of the infrastructure? How do you think things have changed over the past 10 years, for example, or more specifically under the tenure of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, in terms of people coming from the outside world and seeing what we have done and deciding to be pumping more investments here in Egypt?
Exactly. I think in the past years, or especially in the past 10 years,
yes,
President al-Sisi has launched a lot of conferences, and one of the most important was COP27 that was held in Sharm el-Sheikh the couple months ago. I think this showed the world and showed all the universe, the countries, the companies, the investors, to see how Egypt is developing, how Egypt is putting their steps into the economical growth
yes,
in the future as well. So a lot of companies has decided to invest in Egypt, to pump a lot of money in Egypt, doing in the ports, even in this industrial major or sector, industrial sector, or agriculture sector, education sector. We will see later on some investments in this. And as in the conference that happened a few months ago, if we can focus, we saw a lot of investors decided to invest in the tourism, especially in Sharm el-Sheikh and Hurghada. In the next few months, we will see a lot of investments in the tourism, especially.
Education and investment, how can these two sectors be combined, as you mentioned?
We can combine these by technology. The future of technology. We know that everything is going digital.
Yes.
So as if everything is going digital, not only for the education major or education sector, but also about the trade and the. By talking about the access that is happening in El Dakhila and El Sukhna, we will see and everything is digital. By starting by the ships going to the ports, uploading or unloading the loads and the containers, everything is going digital. This is a high technological way or methods that have never happened before in the Middle East.
Does it save time? Does it save money?
Exactly. That's what I'm going to talk about. It saves the cost. It saves it's really speed than before. So it saves the cost, it saves the money, and especially the electric train that is going to happen. It is going to link between El Sukhna and Matruh. So it's going to link this all way long. As we know that in Matruh there is a port, it's called Gargoub. So Gargoub port is one of the important ports that happened in the past few years. And this electric train is going really fast at about 120 kilometers per hour, which is really good to save time and save money. And also that would reflect on the cost of the product itself in the markets, in the Egyptian markets and in the global markets as well.
And Doctor, you said that here in Egypt and more specifically in the ports of Sukhna and Dakhila, everything will be digitalized, and we need for this the human cadres, the human resources. Do we have the ready-made human resources to be operating such a huge project?
Okay. We will go back with history as well. In the past 10 years, we will launching a lot of initiatives to the digital market, the digital education, the digital, everything is digital. Even our education moved in very high and big steps to be digital. And also, we, by talking about the higher education especially, some faculties we can see are new in our education system that have never happened before. That's all to serve the education and all to serve the digital transformation that is happening to the world. So Egypt is going to having their steps and having its place among these countries.
And those steps are leading to the international standards that we acquire to be, or we aspire to be reaching in the near future. What is the importance of having those ports according to the international standards that everyone is operating with all over the world?
Okay, so now we are going to shed some lights on some numbers. By talking about the language of numbers, you know, it's more specific, more accurate.
Yes.
Yeah. By talking about the ports especially, El Sukhna and El Dakhila. So we're having in El Sukhna, we're having a long berth that was already made, but it's in Sukhna and Dakhila both are having a berth into the sea with a length of 3,800 meters long, deeper the sea. And by dividing this, we will see 2,800 for Sukhna and 1,000 200 for El Dakhila.
So combined,
Yeah,
both of
they
them.
are combined.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. So why we are doing this and what is the benefit of this? By having a long berth into the sea, we will help, or that would help a lot of large and giant ships to come nearer to the port, to upload and unload the containers that on the terminals easily, fast, with a higher technology, without with the decrease the human need. So it's all technological that we all see. And by using the help of these companies, they already having ports in several places in the world. But all these companies' representatives said that is the most important access that they have ever used or have ever participated in, which it's a great trade point for Egypt.
And this could be saving time, to say the least.
Exactly.
Yes. Speaking of the competitiveness of the Egyptian ports, do you think that upgrading what we have nowadays could be increasing the competitiveness between the other ports of the region?
By talking about the competitive part, we'll go to the trade exactly.
Yes.
And how we will see that reflect us on our imports and exports. So as we said, that saving time and saving the cost, and as we said that reflect us on the product itself, it's saving the cost of the product for the Egyptian citizen and for the global citizens as well. So the train that happened, or that is going to be launched recently, this train, the electric train, as we said, is really fast for the containers to go for some ports and some access points. During that points, it's going past some, or we can say the heart of some industrial cities, like the 6th of October city, like El Sadat city, like the 10th of Ramadan city. These are most of the industrial cities that helps a lot during the access points that the train is going on, is to help to packing and packaging the goods, and this is helps in preventing the spoilage of some goods, some nutrients goods as well. This is really helpful.
You've mentioned that it could be helping the imports and the exports, because we have a very ambitious target set by His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to be increasing the exports to the outside world, I think, to $100 billion a year, I think. What is the importance of having all those projects simultaneously, all at the same time, upgrading, developing, and maybe constructing from scratch? Like you mentioned, the electrical train, the monorail, all this will be increasing the exports. How do you see the plan that we have put to be increasing the exports from Egypt to the outside world?
Yeah, by talking about this, we're having a lot of parallel methods that we are going, or parallel way that we are walking and at the same time. Yes. So President al-Sisi has launched a lot of projects recently with the transportations, which we see a great achievements in this, and also in the education sector, agriculture sector, and in the industrial sector as well. This all serving on each other, and also they're all serving the great vision of Egypt that we are all going to achieve this in the near future, inshallah. I hope that would happen as well. By mentioning a very critical, and I see which is really important point,
yes,
with these ports, El Sukhna and El Dakhila, we have to know that they are using a clear energy. They are not neglecting the climate change that is happening nowadays, but they are also focusing on using the solar power, the natural and renewable ways of energy that I see that's a really good point in their benefits.
Dr. As you are specialized in sustainable development, and this means that we have to look to the future for the generations to come in the future of the country. How do you see what we are doing nowadays in terms of infrastructure and developing and upgrading is benefiting the future of the country, not just for the now?
Exactly. As we know, that the meaning of sustainability and sustainable development is meant to using all our resources,
yes,
and using it in a simple way, in an accurate way, without leading off or without touching the right of the next generations of these resources. We have to use everything is renewable energy, sources of energy, and the clear power, clear energy, and Egypt is having a clear vision in this. Since and before also the COP27, and exactly since the COP27, we have launched a lot of initiatives that using the sustainable development goals and applying them into the governmental sector, private sector, and we no one, I think, can deny that we are seeing a great change in this part.
We have other ports, other important ports like Alexandria, Al Arish, Port Said, Daqahliya, Damietta. All this will be covered up until 2024 with about 58 different projects at a cost of about $4 billion American dollars. What does this say about the ambition of the country in this field?
Yeah. As we said, that in a conference that happened a couple months before with the President Kamel El-Wazir, the Minister of the Minister of Transport, that he has mentioned that we are having a great future of investments that is coming up to Egypt. Not only in the ports, not only in the transportations, not only in the investments in the ports, but also in the tourism as well. And they have mentioned that, and in the next time or the next few years, we will see huge investments in exactly in the tourism.
What is the importance of those projects that we are talking about for the employment here in Egypt?
Exactly, the employment. Each and every project that we are holding and we are launching in Egypt having some goals. So one of these goals is the opportunities, like giving job opportunities for all the Egyptians, especially the youth. We know that Egypt is having almost 62% of the population is from the youth. And all these need jobs. So each and every project that President El-Sisi launched needs or following some goals. One of them, or one of the important of them, is job opportunities. That helps and service some, we can say, some sustainable development goals like no poverty and a good education and so on. So that helps a lot and service all the 17 other goals.
You've mentioned also tourism, and you said that what we're doing nowadays will be serving tourism for the future, as I think in the past week or maybe yesterday, the statistics said, according to the Prime Minister Mostafa that we have posted the biggest revenues in the history of Egypt from tourism. What does this say about what we have done in this field, in tourism? And on the other hand, how can the tourists from the outside of the region, outside of Egypt, see the country nowadays, especially that we are on the path of inaugurating the GEM, the Grand Egyptian Museum?
Exactly. So we're having a great, or we can say a huge leap in the tourism. We can never deny that these things that have never happened in the Egyptian history,
yes,
in these few years, in a very short time, we're having a huge leap, as we said, in the statistics that is proving what we're saying. We're having the Museum of Civilization that
Yes.
is held recently, and a lot of other, we can say a lot of investments in the tourism sector that helping the economy, and everything is just pouring in our economy as well.
The infrastructure that we have built here in the country over the past 7 or 8 years, how can this serve Egypt as the status, to be increasing the status that we have had here in terms of the global supply chain system?
Yeah, by talking about the global supply chain system,
Yes.
We can go back with history. In the COP, during the COP27 and before COP27, we were having a lack of the global supply chain during that time. And then we are moving forward. We will talk specifically about Egypt. Egypt is having a lot of experts and is having a very nice education in that time. And we're having, by numbers, a huge leap in the global supply chain by the numbers and by statistics of the experts.
Yes, the vision itself of linking, as you mentioned, with the electrical railway or the electrical train between Al Alamein port and Sukhna port.
Exactly.
What is the importance of having such a vision to be linking those ports that this idea we didn't have in the past, for example?
Yeah, by talking about the map of transportation that have changed a lot, we can see that transportations in Egypt are changing day by day. And this is changing, helping and serving the citizens and serving the globe as well, not only the citizens. So serving the citizen by making a lot of new roads, fixing them, repairing them, maintaining them, and so on, and helping the globe by doing this critical access that we are talking about between El Sukhna and Dakhila. And this electric train is moving very fast, as we said. It's with the reduction of the cost, reduction of the time, and helps a lot with the global goods and containers that is coming from all the globe to Egypt.
Throughout the episode, we have focused on the seaports and the importance of having them and upgrading them. But we have seen in the past year or two as well the upgrade that we have had at the Suez Canal and the Suez Canal economic zone, for example. You've mentioned the digitalization and the importance of having the 5th generation technology coming through the systems and the operating systems. How do you see the importance of the Suez Canal with the new look, with the new generation technology?
Yeah, as we said, technology is really, really important nowadays. And we said in the episode before that we're seeing everything is going digital around us, and we have to follow or fall. So we have to follow. We have to follow these technological ways and methods that is happening in the whole world. And we said that Egypt is putting their steps into these technological countries or within the technological countries and proving this by the Suez Canal technological or higher technology of the 5th generation.
Yes, Dr. Aliaa, we will be turning to the other report of the daily debate for tonight, and it comes from the agreement that we have had here in Egypt in the past week, about $1.6 billion to be pumped into the investments of Sukhna and Dakhila ports to be managing and operating those ports for the future. We will be having more details in the upcoming report, so stay tuned.
Egypt signed last week 2 commitment agreements worth $1.6 billion with international consortiums on the establishment of the superstructure, management, operation, exploitation, maintenance, and handing over of the container terminals at Ain al-Sukhna and Dakhila ports. The General Authority for the Suez Canal Economic Zone signed the agreement on development and management of the container terminal of Sukhna Port on the Red Sea with the consortium of Hong Kong-based Hutchison Ports French Container Transportation and Shipping Company CMA, CGM, and Chinese state-owned COSCO Shipping. Meanwhile, the agreement to implement the second project in the Dakhila port on the Mediterranean was signed by the General Authority of Alexandria Port and the consortium of Hutchison Ports and the Geneva-based Mediterranean Shipping Company. The two projects serve as an important step towards establishing a comprehensive logistical container access between the two ports, which would link the Red Sea with the Mediterranean. The planned access would be the largest logistical corridor to serve global trade between the East and the West and would secure more than 2,000 direct and indirect job opportunities. The logistical access will make use of the country's high-speed electric train in transporting containers and will link areas of production and consumption, logistical centers, and dry ports. Moreover, the access will use the two terminals of Sukhna and Dakhila ports as gateways to provide integrated supply chains that serve global trade. Prime Minister Mostafa attended the signing of the two agreements, affirming that the state attaches great importance to developing the Egyptian ports. Over the past years, Egypt, which has 17 commercial ports, has embarked on a comprehensive scheme to upgrade its seaports to boost trade and secure new markets for exports.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate. As we did see through the episode that we are focusing tonight on the seaports here in Egypt and the importance of developing and upgrading them. As we did see in the past report, about $1.6 billion being pumped in terms of investments for the As-Sukhna and Ad-Dakhila ports to be managing and operating them for the future and to be raising the efficiency of them for the Egyptian economy in general, to be attracting more investments, to be having a higher level of employment here in the country and more specifically around those ports. And I'm honored to be having with me over the program for tonight, once again, as I didn't sit in the beginning, Dr. Aliaa Mostafa, the Sustainable Development Expert. As we did see in the past report, what is the importance of the maritime carriages, if we can call them that? How much could be loaded and unloaded onto the ports, as we did say during the episode?
Okay. As we said that the ships, or we are having a great and long berth into the sea, and the both ports, El Sukhna and El Dakhila,
Yes.
we're having the giant and the great ships that have never been able to reach the ports or our Egyptian ports before. So these ships are about 400 meters long. These are very giant ships and having a lot of containers. These containers or these loads are mainly about 2,400 containers or tons over these ships, and we are seeing this is helping a lot into the investments and into the upgrade that happened in the terminals and our ports that have never happened and have never seen before in our Egyptian ports as well.
How do you see the importance of marketing, to be telling the outside world about what we have nowadays? Because of course the image of Egypt, it changes all the time. It's not just about the historic Egypt. We have a modern Egypt, a new republic. We have, as you mentioned, revenues in tourism, new infrastructure all over the country, new cities, a new capital, monorail, electric train, ports, even the linkage between those ports. We have everything new. How do you see the importance of marketing the new image that we have here in the country?
Yeah. By talking about the marketing, I see that our government is really, really intelligent in marketing as well.
Yes.
Because before they signed the contract with these companies, they have launched or had launched a conference couple months before to enhance and to help the other investors and to encourage them to come to Egypt and invest in Egypt. And we have seen this during the recent conference and during signing that the Minister of Transport has said that we are in Egypt welcoming the investments and the investors from all over the world. And he has mentioned and focused a lot, and he has mentioned several times that just feel to make the Egyptian feeling safe with our land. The land is Egyptian and the infrastructure is Egyptian, and where all the engineers and all the infrastructure, the experts with Egyptian, and even the financial experts that were doing the contracts were all Egyptian. These companies, the Russian, the French companies, are just coming for around 30 years just for the superstructure. With all the equipment, so with all
to operate.
And he has focused on how the contract is telling that we are having to, or these companies had to, and in the future will have to redeliver the ports to Egypt.
Yes,
Yeah.
Dr. Aliaa Mostafa, the Sustainable Development Expert, thank you very much for being with us tonight on the Daily Debate.
Thank you so much.
Anytime. And this brings us to the end of the Daily Debate for tonight. Thank you for watching and goodbye.